Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Kanchi Shah, and it gives me immense pleasure in welcoming you all to the Business Resilience Masterclass on behalf of Securonics and Strategy. Ladies and gentlemen, in an ever evolving digital landscape, it is vital to keep pace with trends in cyber threats, which are constantly changing due to several factors. First, more is at stake than just data. Boundaryless enterprises are prone to attack on cloud and operational technology for business disruption. Second, attacks on data integrity can have a greater impact than attacks on data confidentiality and availability. Finally, cyber criminals are leveraging highly sophisticated and specialized techniques that mostly go undetected. Today's next gen SecOps powered by analytics and automation masterclass will focus on the critical aspects of the emergence of new security paradigms that come with the convergence of technologies and business strategy to power incremental outcomes. We at Strategy bring forth today's Business Resilience Masterclass with Securonics. Securonics is redefining threat detection and response for today's hybrid cloud data-driven enterprise. Securonics Next-Gen SIEM and XDR are powered by the most advanced analytics and built on a scalable, flexible, cloud-native architecture. Securonics leverages behavioral analytics technology that pioneered the UEBA category to reduce noise, prioritize high-fidelity alerts, and enable fast and precise response to insider and cyber threats. Ladies and gentlemen, we would request you to address your questions to our speakers using the Q&A option on your screens. We will also request you to fill out the feedback form towards the end of today's masterclass proceedings. We would be delighted to hear your feedback or suggestions. This will help us enhance the content, structure, and delivery of our conferences. And with that, we now kick off today's masterclass. I'd like to welcome Mr. Amit Dhawan, CISO and DPO at Quantify, Mr. Vikas Yadav, CISO at Nykaa.com, Mr. Rishi Rajpal, Global CISO for Concentrix, Mr. Harshal Doshi, Director Sales, India and STAR for Securonics. They are in a conversation with Mr. Arjun Vishwanathan, Chief Knowledge Officer, Strategic. Over to you, Arjun.
Hello and welcome. I'm Arjun Vishwanathan, and I'm going to be joined today by some very, very eminent folks from within the cybersecurity industry to talk about next generation security operations powered by the beauty of analytics and automation. The next 30, 35, 40 odd minutes promise to be truly fascinating. And without further ado, please join me in welcoming this very, very august panel of very senior security folks from across industry, and in no specific order. Warm welcome to Rishi Rajpal, Vice President, Global Security, Concentrix. Rishi, welcome, delighted.
Thanks, Arjun. Pleasure to be here.
Absolutely, sir. Amit Dhawan, who's the CISO and DPO for Quantify. Amit, welcome back. Always a pleasure as always.
Thank you, Arjun. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you. Vikas Yadav, who's the CISO for Nykaa. Vikas, welcome and privileged that you could join us, sir.
Thanks, Arjun. The pleasure is all mine.
And last but certainly not the least, Harshal, Country Manager for Securonics. Harshal, welcome. We are delighted that you could join us.
Thank you, Arjun. Pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Gentlemen, jump into this because the conversation that we have ahead is one that is supremely critical in the day and age that we live in today. Because I was looking at some of the analyst research predictions that some of our brothers from within the analytics and the analyst industry have made, and Gartner specifically says that by 2025, 60% of organizations will use cybersecurity risk as a primary determinant when choosing who to conduct business with. So clearly, the landscape and the ecosystem in which we operate today has changed in dramatic fashion, which is why I essentially, Rishi, with your permission, if I could come to you first, I come to you with the basic question of how, in view of the evolving sophistication of the attack surface and the ecosystem, both from state as well as non-state actors, how important is cybersecurity operations automation, perhaps today than ever before that we could have looked at? Rishi Rajpal.
Hey, thanks, Arjun. And let me just jump to the direct to your question. Automation was very important, is very important, and remain very important in security world.
True.
If you ask any CISO today, uh, what we are all discussing as a group is how do we manage or reduce mean time to remediate?
True.
If we see something, how do we bring down and down and down mean time to remediate? Now, mean time to remediate can only go down with the power of automation. And I'm not discounting the power of humans here,
Of
but
course.
automation of routine tasks and routine activities that people do in SOC today, and how do they respond to incidents, really can bring down mean time to remediate. And this is becoming more and more important in today's world because adversaries are becoming very, very strong, right? And they have very, very targeted attacks against the organization. Now, uh, there is a science behind it, right? Uh, why we want remediation time in minutes and not hours? Because if you look at the data from last few years, uh, how ransomware spreads in an organization, the study says that it just takes 1 hour 58 minutes for a ransomware to cripple down the company, and ideally just you are on your legs immediately, right? So it is important that you follow 1 10 60 rule. I mean, 1 to detect, 10 to respond, and 60 to remediate. Now, it's frankly, it is not possible if you do not have automation in place. That's the power of automation that we need to bring in if you want to meet 1 10 60 cybersecurity rule.
No, it's actually very powerfully articulated, Rishi. Thank you. Because I bring that to you at Nika, which is a cloud-born, cloud-native organization. Increasingly, as we see the infrastructure and the application and the services landscape really uh, blossoming into a multi-cloud kind of an orchestration of sorts. How important, therefore, is automation of security operations? That's number one. The second question, obviously, also is while the journey is fascinating, it's also a very complex journey. What do you bring to bear on that?
Thanks, Arjun. Arjun, I think the question is can be broken into two parts. Firstly, why is automation required? I think Rishi aptly brought out that if you need to move things fast and remediate them fast, then you need to have automation in place. Now, if you see the scale of what B2C environment, especially e-commerce industries has, the number of traffic which is coming to you is immense.
Mm.
So the number of alerts coming on any security platform is also humongous. And for that, you need to bring in automation. And now, how will you bring automation? Now, if you are cloud native, then you already have the cloud service providers like AWS and Azure and GCP, which bring in those facilities which you can automate on the fly. So, and I'll bring a new twist to it. It's in fact the requirement of the day to day. And besides being a requirement of the day, it also changes how you have security people coming in and being qualified for it. They say that the requirement of a security engineer today uh, is that you have to have a knowledge of bash, python, and those simple automation skill sets which you require. So if you need to move and catch up with the speed at which the traffic is coming and subsequently the alerts which they are generating, you have to have automation in place. And that is already enabled by various cloud providers, and in cloud native companies that is imperative. So if you want to leverage what you have, the capability, automation is essential, and it's a requirement both for the organization and I'll say now for the security skill set as well. So in our case, when you hire people, you look for those skill sets as well.
That's actually very, very appropriate and apt because Amit, coming to you, analytics and automation, they pretty much go hand in hand. In your view, why are they more important today than ever before?
I think we are talking the same question which Rishi and Vikas have mentioned. So there is no running away from the fact that automation is required, and I'll not go there further because it has already been clarified. Analytics, because I think they both are quite similar. You know, as Rishi mentioned, 1 10 60, you just have 10 minutes to analyze, to identify the threat, what actually is coming to you, what impact it is going to cause to you, and then you start looking at protecting your assets. You just have 10 minutes. Now, unless you have analytics to, uh, sieve out anything from that tons and tons of data, as Vikas mentioned, keeps coming up. If you do not have that, you are clueless. You will not know how to move ahead. And based on that, you need actionable items. I need to do this. I need to do this. X, Y, Z. You need quantifiable, actionable items that you need to do to remediate in those 60 minutes that Rishi again mentioned. So analytics and automation are the most essential part that you're looking at. If you look at it, see, the traditional SIMs and the traditional architecture that we have is collecting all those things. But SIMs were taking a little backseat because of lack of analytics and lack of automation. Now that thing has actually started, and therefore the market is coming up again. You need to identify something very, very quickly. You need to have actionable items in front of you. You need to have clear directions in which to move, and then start safeguarding or limiting the damage that you have to do.
May I ask a supplementary question to you on this, Amit, if you don't mind, which is that with the sophistication of the attack surface and the overall threat landscape, the technology is also equally getting fairly sophisticated. But in that process, are we generating too much data?
Yes and no. Okay. So that research has to come out in peacetime. That what is it that you need to bring out. What a computer will generate tons and tons of
True,
logs.
true.
And when you look at cloud environment, you don't have normal operating systems. You have services which are running. You have messaging services which are running. There is tons of data which is anyway flowing around in cloud, and out of that you need to take out something that will give you an indicator of something going wrong. Okay, a compromise or attack, and you have to select all those things, select all the data that you want. I think simulation and looking at how you can be compromised is something that you need to work on to identify what you need to collect.
No,
That's a very, very important part. Otherwise, if you know what to collect, maybe you can reduce the time for analytics. Instead of 500 GB, maybe you have 350 GB.
true.
That will have significant amount of saving in time that you can generate in that you need for those 10 minutes of work.
No, so very true. Because Harshil, that's exactly what I'm going to bring to you. You heard our folks, our friends from industry, very, very supremely articulate the whole concept of what the need is, what the requirement is. In that perspective, and given your spectrum of visibility into industry from the point of view of Securonics, how are you kind of helping folks in traversing this journey in a more comprehensive, educated, and fruitful manner?
Right. Thanks, Arjun. I think you know uh, the whole shift in the industry is happening really, really fast, and there is a reason behind it. It's because the 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 nature of attacks, cyber attacks, have evolved so fast that the good guys haven't been able to catch up that well, right? And that is the reason why a lot of large enterprises or governments have adopted this change of moving towards from a static policy based rule engine to a more analytics driven cybersecurity threat detection in a really fast manner. Okay, and to add to that problem, I'm calling it a problem because it is change. Change always brings good things and bad things together. Now, the change that I'm talking about is cloud, right? 5 years back, most infrastructure was controlled by organizations, in a shell, right? Today, it is open, okay, and we are forced to, open it because of, the very situation that we've been through all these years. Now, uh, if I have to put all of these together in a jigsaw puzzle, there is a method to this madness, right? We spoke about automation, but it has to be a little more nuanced, this conversation, because if you start automating everything, okay, you will start automating false positives, okay, which can result into business disruption, right, which you don't want to do, right? And that is where a strong analytics engine comes to your rescue, because If you ask any practitioner today, their biggest problem is that yes, I'm seeing alerts, I'm seeing threats, but 90% of them are false positives. Okay, I'm not able to implement the automation in the right manner because of that, right? To bring that sanity into the data or the information that you're getting, and Amit kind of mentioned it very correctly, that you need to sanitize and you need to have actionable intelligence, and that is where analytics or machine learning brings in a lot of value, right? Where you are absolutely sure that the human error aspect of it, that somebody is defining a rule for me, it could go wrong, it could go right, but here it's a machine which is constantly learning, it is constantly evolving, it is looking at your behavior, and then it is giving out indicators, which means that your automation and orchestration can be very methodical, it can be very step by step, so that you don't disrupt your business operations by automating false positives. That is where I think the sequence in which you implement analytics and then automation and then orchestration, I think that's the way to evolve. And Securonics, because we have kind of plunged into this earlier than most other solutions, we've been in this industry for 12 years now, and a leader in this particular space, we've kind of helped hundreds of organizations to kind of take that approach over a period of time.
That's actually interesting because Rishi, if I could come to you, because this masterclass essentially is also about uh, deepening the whole understanding that our wonderful audience that's tuning in today would like to understand, which is when you look at analytics and we look at automation, especially in the ecosystem of or the domain of security operations, what is your essential guidance as a practitioner on how to even approach the journey?
It takes a while, Arjun. It is not like a magic wand that you kind of rotate and you start getting analytics, right? So
True.
first of all, you need to have lots of data, and then you learn from that data to get actionable information, which Hershel was talking about. And then from that actionable information, you automate, right? So your confidence on actionable information has to be so high so that you can really automate. Otherwise, as Hershey was saying, it will disrupt business. So that's the reason you need to have a lot of data. Then you train, then you do analytics out of it, then you obtain actionable information. And once you have that actionable information, you start building your playbooks to automate. And even automation, it's not something that you can build on the fly, because traditionally if you've been running SOC for years, your playbooks are defined manually. Now on a whiteboard, then you define your playbook, and then you pick up the tasks, how much of those tasks can be automated. And then you need a checkpoint in between. Okay, this is the task I cannot automate. I need a human intervention, right? So I want some intelligent or my L3, L4 SOC guy to say, okay, I approve because I've seen it. This is a confirmed true positive, and then automation builds on. So I think it is important to build those checkpoints in between for critical actions. And traditional case that I talk about that everybody faces today is, say, example, phishing.
Yeah.
So we all know what steps we do daily to avoid phishing or to mitigate that threat. It is not very difficult to automate, but at the same time, it is very complex because you are making those decisions, a lot of decisions in that playbook. Okay, is it really a fish? Okay, it is really a fish. I click. It has a malicious URL, yet it has a malicious URL. Do I send a signal to all my gateways to block this URL? Yes, I need to send that signal to all this. So I think uh, the power of automation and coming out of actionable information from automation and then taking action is really the journey.
No, that's actually fascinating because I bring that to you from where Rishi's just left it, which is when you're developing this overall orchestration or the architecture for automation, what in your view as a practitioner is or are the weakest links in the chain, and what would be your guidance to a new generation of CISOs and data protection officers on how to mitigate and perhaps strengthen the whole concept of one weak link in the chain?
So I think what is most important while considering automation is also the impact which is going to have on the infra and the applications.
True.
So a simple example would be that when you are putting automation in a WAF, So if you have a learning tool and you're blocking some traffic, now you can't have business impact. Let's say if you have a false positive of a customer not being able to access the website when there's a genuine request, so that will be detrimental to the business. Now you need to decide how to tailor it. For that, obviously, you require a time period in which you'll tune the false positives out. You'll take into consideration what are the conditions or what are the threats which you are facing, and then decide on what is the kind of automation which you can build in. It is something similar to what you do in security testing in a CI/CD pipeline. So if you do secure CI/CD pipeline, you put application security testing tools like ZAP, which is the OASP framework, and you decide that okay, fine. In the initially, I will let my applications releases go through, even though there may be a security bug which is there. But as you tune the solution going forward, you realize that there are some critical bugs which are not false positives and are occurring again and again. Then you start putting your blockers in between. You start putting your guardrails in between, and then that is how you will slowly scale security up. So I'll say the major consideration is the business impact. Should not have detrimental or a negative business impact. Second, you should take time to let the automation set in, and also involve other team members and other stakeholders. Let's say in our environment, it would be the DevOps team
True.
and also the application engineers. So I'm talking specifically of, let's say, WAF and CI/CD testing where automation could be done. In security operations as well, let's say if you decide to block a public S3 bucket, that is which has PI data. Now you don't have to be very sure that this particular bucket is not really meant to be public. So now that's where it is there. So you can build in automation, but you need to learn and understand the context as you go along.
No, that is very true. Because Amit, now that you've been listening in on how what the approach is and various other aspects related to this, my question to you therefore also is, from a technology point of view, and increasingly for the audience as well as folks such as Harshal, what do you need the technology to be able to perform today and tomorrow for you to truly approach the journey of cyber resilience in a fairly decisive manner?
So basically, I would want technology to do whatever we have discussed so far. Okay.
True.
Identify what we need to review, uh, get out actionable work that needs to be done, and then somehow do that without disrupting the business. Now, continuing to do that, I think the technology is changing. As I briefly mentioned, the way we are looking at the way the cloud is working, the way we are moving in a direction where probably another 10 to 15 years we might land up in two particular directions. One is no servers at all, okay, on the cloud, because every cloud provider is working at a solution where you can work without servers. If you can work without servers, it is going to become a bigger nightmare for you, because till now you were working purely looking at underlying operating system issues, and that was what was getting affected. If that doesn't get affected, we need new technology, we need new structure to test our systems and test our resilience. The other direction is probably too complex or too fast or too big analytic systems which cloud still does not provide, and we still need to go back to on-prem to do that. Okay. So it is going to become, a hybrid cloud between multiple CSPs
True.
and your on-prem infrastructure and the people who are, working from their own homes. So technology has to be good enough to pick up from everywhere, work very, very quickly to tell us what needs to be done, and then somehow do it as well.
No, I like that because Harshal, I bring precisely that to you. You heard industry clearly articulate their needs, their requirements. Uh, what perhaps compounds the situation for you even more so at Securonics, and I speak on that behalf, is the whole concept of how you've got to look at innovating on technology and security apparatus and solutions to cater to what you don't know will come and hit us day after tomorrow. In
Yeah.
that perspective,
Yeah.
what's the journey at Securonics and what is the innovation that we could expect, such as will help industry like Rishi, Vikas, and Amit precisely do what they articulated they want to do? Essentially, my question to you is what are you innovating on that'll help them sleep slightly better at night?
Perfect. That's a great question, Arjun. And uh, you know, as a thought leader in this industry, it's uh, uh, I'm really happy to answer this question first. Because we are a research based organization, and that's our bread and butter. And more than our customers, the bad guys are keeping us in business, and we
True.
love that, right? So just that's just on the lighter note. But yes, I think this industry is moving really really fast. This whole shift from on premises applications to cloud, okay, and then moving from a relational database to a big data platform to churn terabytes and terabytes of data, okay, moving from a static policy based to machine learning, artificial intelligence based detection, right? Those have been some of the key innovations that cybersecurity industry has done in the last 3 to 4 years, right? What next? I think automation is at its peak right now. Everybody is speaking about automation.
True.
But I think one key factor which we all need to also add, I think that's the secret sauce, is orchestration. Because when you look at an orchestra playing, everybody is in sync. I think that is more of a process than technology. I think a lot of times process seems to be ignored when we are too concentrated on technology implementation, so on and so forth. So that is one area where a consortium of cybersecurity players are now coming together, saying that, okay, I'm competing with you, fine, but then let's work together, because you have a customer base, I have a customer base, we have to work together, right? But there's a long way to go. Okay, I'll give you a very specific example, and I'm sure Rishi, Amit, and because they've been running huge organizations from a cybersecurity perspective, they would appreciate this. It's a very technical example, but it's a very relevant one, right?
Please go ahead.
Any attack that you look at today, okay, they are after your data, right? And a very important solution which protects your data is data loss prevention, a DLP solution, right? And today we are talking about automation, that hey, whenever there is, say, a phishing attack, or there is any other sort of attack, they're essentially after your data. How do you really automate, okay, controls on a data loss prevention solution? Okay, because that is more of an inline solution. So unless there is an activity which is initiated by an end user, it's not going to enforce anything, right? How can this industry come together, say for example a Securonics or a Forcepoint or a Semantic coming together, okay, say that, hey, this is a very important use case, let us solve it together, right? That is one piece which is still missing, which is kind of solved in a partial manner. But I think that is something where the world is going towards, where you will see more and more consolidation happening, more and more cybersecurity companies talking to each other and collaborating to address these specific cybersecurity issues for the customers. Right.
Interesting. So it's increasingly becoming a fascinating conversation, gentlemen. But I do have a view on the clock, which is why, Rishi, I also come to you with a fairly important question today, which is that as the corner offices, as boards start having security and cybersecurity and cyber resilience as an important boardroom metric, increasingly, two questions that really come to mind, which is while security solutions also are evolving in their maturity and sophistication, something that all of you have mentioned in one form or the other is how do you build the skill sets within the organization to be able to take this forward in a more comprehensive fashion? That's number one. And the second is how do you build awareness within the organization?
Yeah. So one is obviously our own staff, right, which is
Yeah.
cybersecurity professionals. We know that there is a huge shortage of professionals, and everybody is, I'm sure everybody here on the call also has open positions which they're trying to fill in. So obviously, how do you hire, how do you retain is really a big big tasks on our hand, and how do you constantly train them? So, and which is one of the stuff that we do is that whenever we go in for any OEM or any product that we buy, uh, we make sure that we are having professional trainings along with that product or technology, which ensures that their skill set is relevant for the organization. And obviously it is beneficial for the organization as well, because they are able to contribute. And gradually, obviously there are a lot of steps being taken internally. If you have a passion for something, if you want to move within GRCC to engineering to GRCC, all that is available for the employees, so that they can follow their passion and still be in part of the same organization. Secondly, building a security aware culture is very, very important. And sometimes you take a passive approach, whether you go in for an education awareness module, but it is very important to check the efficacy of your program. And lot of organizations are taking an offensive route. Offensive route, when I say, is you do simulations,
True.
you kind of publish reports, who fell for it, and that way, I mean, and then you can obviously tie up with your HR to form a disciplinary grid, because how many times you can accept a mistake?
True.
Because we
Absolutely
all
true.
know that one wrong click can endanger your organization. So I
Like they
think it
say
is
in
a
security, the first time is a mistake, the second time is stupidity.
correct. And then even if you go to, you're too conservative, you may go for a 4 cross, 5 cross kind of a scenario. But I think a combination of this should help build a security aware culture. That's
Very
my thought.
interesting. Very interesting. Because I come to you now also with the same question, which is what would you like to see industry do more on to help bridge the gap of skill sets that Rishi's also mentioned, so did you, clearly exists? What needs to be done more?
I think I have some very radical views, but I'll tone it down. But I'll say that
Please go ahead.
there is a lot which OEMs can do. Right from a simple example being when you get a Microsoft laptop, why do you allow persons to log into the admin console directly? So why don't you build two accounts, a guest account or a simple account, and you educate them? So when it starts from Microsoft, though they are also a big security OEM and also a big provider, but I think you need to build systems securely, one, and second is you need to educate. I think training, what Rishi was mentioning, is it's a push from our side to get the OEMs to do the training. I would say that you should be training more and more people for free on basic cybersecurity fundamentals, giving them practical exposure on real life threats, and then you will be helping build the next generation of cybersecurity professionals. Now, cybersecurity is extreme shortages there. I think both in be it India, be it US, be it in any country. I think that cannot be filled by the conventional route of having BTech engineers and technology engineers only filling in these positions. You can have a lot of lateral entry. You can
True.
have people coming in from internal audit. You can have engineers coming in. You have QA guys coming in. So I think inculcating that route is also very important. For that, you need to build programs for at a lateral level entry as well. Also, I think offering internships in a large number. In fact, I built my team at NICA with a set of interns the first 6 months. So having encouraging more organizations to do internships to get college graduates to do internships would be a definite one, because you need people who have exposure to real life threats.
True that.
And also, I think one another gap which I feel could be bridged, and it is slowly getting we are getting there, is bridging the academy industry gap. That means we still have a lot of universities in India, be it IIT Kanpur and other GFSU, for example, in Gujarat, and also IIIT Allahabad, who are doing master's level and bachelor's level programs in cybersecurity. But the level of industry interaction has to increase. I think
Exactly.
that is what one model which we can really pick up from US, where the level of interaction is very high. And that is where I would encourage the OEMs and the security companies uh, to leverage their strengths and their capability to try and bring in some industry programs for all these graduates. So to
Very true.
summarize, I think lateral entry, academy industry interaction, and more training for free from security companies.
Amit,
That's
same question to you, because I know for a fact that you've got very strong views on this, having known you for as many years. And also the question of, do you think there is adequate collaboration today between CISOs, data protection officers, and OEMs to actually build the products that will genuinely get put into use? Rather
I,
than
truthfully, I don't believe so. The collaboration is not there. So I'll give you a simple example. There was a venture capital firm which reached out to me and said that, oh, we want you to recommend the next generation of security companies in India. Now, there's a lot of traction of security companies doing well in India today. There's a lot of cloud service companies who are solving problems for cloud, but they need a lot of help. Now, everyone wants a baked product. Whereas
True.
I think I've seen, I don't remember the country, but I think maybe it was US itself, wherein they have a venture capital company which was collaborating with CISOs to help and sponsor and guide the next range of startups.
Oh, that's very interesting. But because with your permission, can I just
Yeah,
take
but
that to
I'll just
Amit?
end. I'll just end.
Yeah,
But on the positive side, I see Data Security Council of India doing a lot of effort in that. So they are doing a lot of roadshows. They are bringing in security companies and showcasing it to the CISOs as well. I think Rishi attended one of these conferences. I missed it because of a knee injury. But I think so. DSCI is doing. But maybe they're the only ones who are fighting the solitary battle. So that is where I think security companies could pitch in. And
no,
also
absolutely.
help.
Amit, your views, and I know, having known you for as many years, I know you have very, very strong views on this.
So what I generally do it as a practice as well. Uh, Connect the culture part which Rishi mentioned to the engineering and operations part. Okay, so yes, HR disciplinary action, warning letters, even PIP, because that goes in the policy. Is identifying those users uh, who are failing or who are not responding, and then tracking them separately as part of operations and metrics. Okay, so that is one additional step that you can go in for. Other thing is having the same policy and structure around the organization. So no privileges, no freebies to anybody in the organization till the time there is actually a business requirement to what they want, because that becomes a deterrent as well as a benchmark when speaking to a lot of other people. So the first part I call it as a user vulnerability index. We have machines which are vulnerable. We have endpoints which are having issues. We have people who are coming back with a lot of IT service desk problems, etc., etc. And then these guys keep filling up their data in phishing campaigns as well. Okay, so connect both of them, uh, create some solid stick, and a carrot. So in the
Of course.
metrics, have carrots as well. Give kudos to the function, to the manager, to the senior manager, who are catching maximum number of phishing mails.
So true.
So create a balance, but do not keep security culture to as a separate thing. Embed it into the operations part of it, the engineering part of it, and relate both of them. So
No,
this is something
absolutely.
that I
Couldn't
do.
agree more because, but I couldn't agree more because in conclusion, Harshal, I come to you and you clearly heard industry speak loud and clear about their needs, the challenges, and yet the opportunities too. In that method, in conclusion, I would like to ask you, how at Securonics are you essaying comprehensively the role of partners in progress to organizations such as the ones that are represented here?
Right, right. So, just picking up from, whatever Rishi, Vikas, and Amit, mentioned, there are two aspects to skills, capability, and enablement, all of those things. One is the cybersecurity talent itself, okay, which we all agree that it's in scarce, and there needs to be a lot of work to be done both from the academics end and from OEMs like us to kind of upskill a lot of youth in the country, because we are a populated country. We don't need anything more. We have a lot of people and talented people here. One aspect which is still missing, which I think I need inputs from these gentlemen as well, is the inclusion of uh, 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 behavior based or intent based assessment of cybersecurity incidents, right? And that is where things like psychology come into picture, because if you look at cybersecurity incidents, the weakest link in anything bad which happens in an organization are humans, right? Uh, Most of the time what happens is that intent is ignored. Okay, what is the intent behind somebody doing something, right? Say for example, he might not, a person, who has, is a bit disgruntled, okay, might not have had a very good relationship with his teammates or with his manager or whatever it is, right? And historically he might not be, or he or she might not be like that, right? So assessment of that, behavioral index, I think, Amit used a very important word called use the vulnerability index, right? I mean, though, that is a very important aspect which is currently missing, and that is what Securonics is currently helping organizations do with our user and entity behavioral analytics engine, where what we do is outside of the activity events which we ingest in our platform, we also ingest human resource data. We also look at activity data. We look at travel data, right? We look at social media profiling, right? Which means that there is a huge analytical processing that we do on user behavior or intent, which is very, very important when you're investigating a cyber incident, right? Processes are in place, technology is in place. I think we are going after the most vulnerable aspect, which are users. So that is, one thing which I would, really want organizations to kind of also more focus on.
Oh, couldn't agree more with all of you gentlemen. Clearly, uh, the need exists. The solutions are available. I think, like Vikas also mentioned, and so did Rishi and Amit, greater collaboration to move forward in a more resolute manner into, a certainly uncertain future of sorts. But gentlemen, each of you has been scintillating in your articulation and your narrative. I am supremely privileged to have been part of this masterclass. Thank you so very much, Vikas, Rishi, Amit, Harshil. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks.
everyone.
My pleasure, Raj.
Wonderful. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was Arjun Vishwanathan, your host, in conversation with eminent industry and OEM specialists on the whole concept of next generation security operations with automation and, of course, analytics. That's all from us for this segment. Stay tuned. We'll be back in just a moment.
Thank you very much, Amit, Vikas. Thank you, Rishi, Harshal, and Arjun for sharing those gems of insight. Thank you for shining the light on the business resilience, especially in context of security intelligence analytics, real-time insights, proactive rapid decision making, and its strategic relevance to businesses and the adoption of best practices. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we'll now move forward to our next segment, which is titled The Tech Talks. I'd like to welcome Mr. Harshal Doshi, Director Sales for India and SAARC at Securonics, who's in a conversation with Mr. Arjun Vishwanathan, Chief Knowledge Officer at Strategy. Once again, over to you, Arjun.
Securonics is redefining threat detection and response for today's hybrid cloud data-driven enterprise. Built on big data architecture, the complete cybersecurity and analytics operations platform is a pure SaaS solution with unlimited scalability and no infrastructure cost. It reduces noise and prioritizes high-fidelity alerts with behavioral analytics, and customers love it. We can handle any environment, we know what to look for, and we can leverage technology alliances. Our customer-first, partner-always commitment means you get included in every opportunity. Price protection, services potential, dedicated support, and unique rewards. Together, we can deliver the best results for our shared customers and transform their security operations. Let's work together. Securonics, the complete cybersecurity analytics and operations platform.
Hello and welcome back. I'm Arjun Vishwanathan, and I'm going to be continuing my conversation with Harshal Doshi, who's the country manager for Securonics. Harshal, welcome back. The last session was interesting beyond belief, wasn't it?
Absolutely, Arjun. Fascinating conversation with all the three leading CISOs of India, and a lot to learn from them as well. Yeah.
Indeed so. Which is why Harshil, I must take this and continue this conversation forward by asking you, therefore, now that you've boiled down industry expectations, what is, and at Securonics, how are you seeing cyber resilience and the automation of security operations kind of move forward in a more cohesive manner for industry? Uh, what do you see the future looking like?
Right, right. So, Arjun, I'd like to kind of rewind about a decade back, right? And while I was working at RSA at one point in time, and I remember this very interesting quote that my vice president of products at that time, had mentioned that in the cybersecurity world, the bad guys are innovating at a lot faster pace than the good guys,
So true.
right? And that is in fact the truth even today, and even moving forward, because they are not regulated by any rules. They have the entire world to explore, right? So when you have something as limitless as that, innovation comes naturally, right? And that is where I think OEMs like us, or product companies like us, quite frankly, have been a little struggling to kind of keep pace, right? We have been innovating, but we are still lagging behind. But I think technologies like, say, machine learning, statistical modeling, behavioral analytics, artificial intelligence, and those kind of technologies have really accelerated our pace to innovate and at least be at par with what those guys are doing. So coming back to your question in terms of how does this apply to cyber resilience and security operations in large enterprises, right? Now, if you look at the way in which enterprises have been running their security operations, right? It started off as a compliance check, right? A bank used to do it because they were mandated to do it by the regulator. A telco company was doing it because they were regulated by the TRI, right? So this entire segment started off as a compliance check mark for even large enterprises, right? So there was not much emphasis given on how well am I detecting threats, right? Am I able to, address those incidents in the right fashion? Is it, is it giving me any tangible financial benefits, so on and so forth? So those were not boardroom discussions before, say, 6 years, 10 years, whatsoever, right? But the moment enterprises started to realize that these cyber threats or attacks have started having an impact on their brand, on
Sure.
their customer retention, okay, and it is having a revenue impact on them, that is where it started to get a lot more focus, okay, and that is where the seriousness of to go to the next generation of technology which can solve this problem actually started to come into being. Now, Securonics kind of envisaged this particular trend over a decade back, okay, and that is where we straight away dwelled into utilizing technologies like machine learning and AI to detect advanced threats, right? And of course, to build on to trends like cloud, virtualization, so on and so forth. Those were the obvious choices as the world moves ahead. But what enterprises are doing right now is that they are absolutely sure of moving away from a very reactive security operations to a more predictive and a predictable security operations,
Very true.
where they want to know if they are at risk right now and what are the kind of attacks that they can be faced with in the future, right? And that is what companies like Securonics bring to the table, because we combine concepts like user behavior, right, machine learning, baselining, statistical modeling, to understand behavior of employees, of entities, so on and so forth, and help enterprises understand if they are at risk going future, right?
In that sense, Harshal, at Securonics, do you have any particular sectoral focus, or is it more industry based, industry broad based?
Yes, so I think that's a great question, Arjun, and this is where Securonics really differentiates, right? Cybersecurity companies, if you look at most of them, they are restricted to solving only IT risk. Okay. But when you look at enterprise risk, it goes much beyond IT. Okay. I'll give you a very simple example. Uh, Everybody in India knows who Nirav Modi is, right? He is the one who conned a very large bank of thousands of crores, right? And it's public information, right? What if I tell you today that a company like Securonics would have prevented that kind of fraud? It is not a cyber fraud, it is a financial fraud.
Indeed.
Okay. The very fact that all business today happens digitally and everything that we do has a digital footprint. You order food today, there is a digital footprint that, okay, Arjun ordered pasta from a specific outlet in Bangalore, right? There's a digital
Like they
footprint.
say, anonymity only exists on the dark web.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, this can be extrapolated in everything, whether it's banking, whether it's healthcare, whether it's retail, whether it's manufacturing. In every industry, all business has a digital footprint. And what we are doing at Securonics is that we are collecting that information and we are running our analytics on top of it to tell enterprises today that, okay, you have this IT risk, but what are the business risks that you're facing today? Is there a Swift based financial fraud which is happening? Is there a personal health information risk that you are facing? Is there an SAP based fraud that you're seeing in your organization, right? So going much beyond IT and addressing business risk is what Securonics is doing today.
That's actually fascinating, Harshil, because something that you mentioned in the last segment, along with the CISOs, also was that Securonics is today about 12 years old, if I'm, and do correct me if I'm wrong. In that sense, do you continue to fashion as a startup that is full of energy? And what is the ethos and the culture at Securonics that makes you stand apart?
That's again a wonderful question, Arjun. So you're absolutely right. Even though we are more than a decade old, our ethos, our DNA is still like a startup. And I say that with a lot of responsibility and accountability because when you look at large enterprises, right, though they build amazing products, very stable, very resilient, so on and so forth, but they somewhere lose that nimble feet approach or a very agile approach. Okay, there are 10 layers of bureaucratic processes that you have to go through to make even a small change. Okay, I think that is where Securonics scores really high, because if a customer requires a particular feature, and if we at Securonics, our product management feels that irrespective of the amount of revenue that that particular account generates, if it's bringing value overall, we don't hesitate to kind of add that in our feature list. So from that perspective, absolutely yes. Whether it's product innovation, whether it's the way in which we operate as a business, okay, everything is super agile and just like a startup. So yes, the
That's
answer is a
actually
big yes.
interesting. Because you spoke about the whole concept of enterprise risk, which brings me to an important question, which is therefore that in your approach to industry, do you tend to take a more consultative approach, or do you tend to take a more solution or a product-based approach? And if you could kindly be expansive on that.
Yeah, so there are two ways to answer this. Arjun. One is a sales-ish answer, and one is more of a thought leadership answer, right? Uh, from a thought leadership perspective, okay, what Securonics is aiming to do is to showcase or to kind of make enterprises aware what they are not aware about, right? Being in the dark does not mean that you're not at risk, right? Now, our job is to go in and demonstrate that, what are the kind of risks that you're not even aware about, right? So instead of addressing the problems that they know, we kind of help them understand what are the problems that they don't know. Okay. This again, helps the enterprises to be a lot more aware that, we are not blindsided by an attack which hit us, right? We do this with a lot of different approaches, right? We speak to them about industry based use cases. We do a full-fledged proof of concept in their organization to take live information and tell them that, hey, here are the risks that you're not even aware about, and let's take it ahead. So yeah, these are the approaches that we take instead of addressing. So everybody is here to address the problem. Okay, that okay, you need a car which is 2000 cc, four valve engine, here's it is. But hey, I want to understand your driving pleasure. I want to understand, who is it in with you to drive that car, right?
So true.
So an entire system based on what you don't know and what you want to really achieve, right? That's how we approach this.
So how strong is how strong, how large, how nimble is the team at Securonics, Harshil? And what have you set yourselves in store for the future as you march forward in a more resolute fashion?
Arjun, if I speak about India, India has specifically seen astronomical growth. I mean, I'm specifically using that word because, we have been in India, doing business only for the last couple of years. Okay. And the kind of growth that we have seen is nothing short of astronomical. Globally, Securonics also has been doing amazingly well. You must have already seen our position in the Gartner's quadrant and other analysts reviews. We are right at the top. We are the fastest growing SIM company in the world. uh, from an employee base perspective, we were about 350 odd employees at the beginning of 2021, and now we are almost about 1,000, right?
Wow.
So 3x increase in the number of employees that we have globally. India specifically has been, a hub for Securonics, both from an engineering perspective, implementation, cloud support. Almost 55% of our employee base is in India. Okay, so we serve our global customers from India,
From India.
right? And yes, we are growing really really fast. And what we want to become, Arjun, in the next 1 or 2 years is the de facto solution to go for security analytics for the world.
Fantastic. And in conclusion, we've got just about a couple of minutes. Harshil, the man behind the technology. But the last 2 years have been fairly, well, stressful for a lot of us at personal as well as professional levels. Uh, One particular learning, it could be personal, it could be professional, that you learned during the disruption, the lockdown, and so on and so forth, that's going to stay with you for a long, long time to come.
Yeah, I think we as human race, Arjun, have realized that how important health and wellness is. I
So,
think,
so true.
in the last couple of years, I think everybody in the world have reprioritized, their lives. Right from understanding that, what rat race we were in to make money without any purpose, and how less of a time that we were spending on ourselves for our wellness and health. I think on a personal note, I think that was the biggest learning that I had, that we have limited number of seconds in this world to
Yeah.
live, and let's make the most of it. That's the learning on the personal front. On a professional front, I'm sure a lot of my peers agree that we now do a lot of work more efficiently sitting at the comfort of our home rather than unnecessary travel, right? So if I rewind my life about a decade back, okay, and see that the amount of unnecessary travel that we used to do and the kind of toll it used to take on our health, it's unimaginable, right? And the kind
Absolutely.
of productivity that we all are demonstrating right now sitting at the comfort of our homes is unimaginable. So i'll I'll, at the risk of this, I'll tell you right now, I'm sitting in my body, which is formal, right? So it is very optimized and very efficient to work in the fashion that we are working right now. So
I
yes,
couldn't
these
agree
are
more
some
on
of
that.
the key learnings that I have.
I couldn't agree more, Harshal. And I must add, this has been a very fascinating conversation. Thank you so much for making time out to join us back once again.
Thank you so much, Arjun. Pleasure always. Bye
Thank
bye.
you. And to the audience, that was I, Arjun Vishwanathan, in conversation with Harshal Doshi, country manager for Securonics. That's all from us here for now. Stay tuned. We'll be back in just a moment.
Thank you very much, Harshil and Arjun, for that engaging and encouraging discussion. Thank you for sharing a nuanced view on business value highlights towards accelerated enterprise resilience, organizational innovation, agility, growth, and revival. With that, ladies and gentlemen, it's a wrap. I hope you found today's masterclass informative and useful. I would request you to please take a few moments of your time and fill in the feedback form. We'd love to hear your feedback and suggestions, as this will help us enhance the structure, content, and delivery of our conferences. Thank you once again, everybody, for joining us today on behalf of Securonics and Strategy. We look forward to seeing you at our upcoming conferences. Until then, stay safe, stay healthy, and have a great day ahead.